Hello and welcome to the A to Z on managing people, and today we're on to the letter F, and F is for feedback. Now, I believe that being able to give good supportive feedback is a critical skill for any manager, but sadly a lot of managers shy away from giving feedback because they are worried it's not going to be accepted or that it might be challenged. Now, feedback isn't just about when you're feeding back on something that you're not happy with and you want to see an improvement. It's also there to motivate people and give them credit when they have done a good job as well. But of course, it does get criticised, or it does get challenged when it's maybe not specific enough, it's all sort of really woolly, it's too personal, so you're giving feedback to people on people's personality rather than their actions. Maybe if it's overly critical, it's all, like 101 things that somebody has done wrong rather than focusing on one or two things. It's also when it's based on hearsay, so it's not factual. So somebody else has told you about something and then you're feeding back on somebody else's opinion or interpretation of the facts. So how can we make feedback effective? Well, I have a little three-phase structure, and it's called the AID model. So it's the action or behavior, I is for impact, and the D is for do or develop. So let's start with A as the action. So this is about what you have actually seen firsthand or heard firsthand. So maybe you have heard one of your team on the phone taking a booking or a reservation, and you pick up on their tone and you're not really very happy on their tone. Now, if you say that if you feed back to them and say, I wasn't happy about the way in which you spoke to that customer, that's not very specific. So what we need to be picking up on is a very specific and measurable thing. So it might be the fact that they were very loud or were critical, or maybe some of the words that they use as part of that phone call. Also be mindful of when somebody else has reported back to you on something. So let's say, for example, a customer has complained. Mrs. Jones has complained to Sam about the way in which he served her. And what we end up doing, if we're not careful, is to give feedback on, you were rude to Mrs. Jones. Now, actually, the only factual bit is the fact that Mrs. Jones has complained about Sam and what she said. So that's what we have to feedback on the facts, not the hearsay or people's interpretation of those facts. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you're not going to be following through on that. But if Sam had said something, it's to get him to tell you his version of the event, so you know the full picture. Equally, of course, if we're feeding back on something that's really good, there's quite a big difference between, oh, thank you, well done, that was a really good job, and being very specific about what it is that somebody has done that you've been particularly pleased with. So that's about the action. A is for action. What's the action that you've either observed or heard firsthand? The I is for the impact of that or the implication of that. So if we go back to Sam and speaking rudely to a customer, is for him then to realise what's the implication of that, and think of it from a point of view of what impact is it going to have on him and how he comes across. It might give him a harder job, that he might not get as many tips. It could be that promotion or whatever it is that he's had his eye on, something that they've done has worked against that. Or actually it could be the converse, is that the implication is that actually you've done a really good job here, well done, and what that now means is that we can now go on to develop you in this area, or I can trust you to do that task on your own. So talk about the impact or the implication that their actions have had. And then that leads you into the D, which is for do differently or to develop. So let's start this time with, if it's been positive feedback and you're feeding back on something that you're really pleased with the way in which somebody has done a task, they need to know what happens next. Do you want to see more of the same? Does that mean then you're going to build on that to other situations where they can use that particular skill? So what's going to happen next, really? If it's because you want somebody to do something differently, then it's important that you're very specific about what it is they're going to do differently and how they're going to do this. Now, with supportive feedback, this is the time that you might need to give people some support, because if they have done something that you're not happy with and they don't know how to improve it, then they are inevitably going to need some help from you. So set that plan out in terms of part of the discussion about what you're going to do, what they're going to do differently, and what they need from you, and how you're going to help them to get there, and get some commitment from them as well at the end of the discussion. Now, when you're giving feedback, this could be a 20-minute discussion, or it could be a 2-minute discussion. The important thing is that you give feedback as soon as is reasonably possible after the event. Now, that means that it needs to be, quite often we need to be giving feedback in private, which might be difficult, but also people need to be in the right sort of frame of mind. You need to be in the right frame of mind as well, because if someone's just done something that you are very unhappy about and it makes you angry, then that's probably going to come across in your feedback. So you might need to just sort of bide your time to a time when it's going to be well received by the employee and you're in the best possible state to give that feedback. So F is for feedback and that ability to give supportive feedback to your team. That's all from me for today. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.